Sing it, Bruce.
Thank you for letting me be myself again. Oh, yeah. Look at here now. Pull your pants down.
Pull them back up.
Oh, yeah. Right. It's cold outside.
Yeah, that voice belongs to Bruce Wolf, who's sitting in all week for Dan Proft. I'm so glad that you're here. Really.
I am glad to be here. Thank you, Amy.
It's always a pleasure. And I don't know if you know this, but you did fill in last week. Our campaign this year to help those in need, we're partnering up with Food for the Poor.
Wait a minute. Did Paul Vallas just hear me doing that
Yeah.
on hold?
I'm sure
Well, you should have told me.
But
I'm a little bit embarrassed by that.
We'll tell you why
Okay.
Paul Vallas is involved with this in just a second. But Food
Aye.
for the Poor, it's one of the largest international relief and development organizations in the United States, and they provide life-saving food, medicine, clothes, more importantly, clean water to those in need. And especially Haiti has been hit hard with Hurricane Matthew, and roadways up into the villages have been desecrated. There, I mean, it's almost impossible. But Food for the Poor, they have a warehouse. They've been there since 1982, and 95 cents of every dollar donated goes to the people in Haiti. We're asking for a one-time donation of $50, and with that, you'll provide food for a year and clean water for life. And if you haven't done so, please, it just takes a few minutes. Operators are standing by. The number to call is 855-880-FOOD, 855-880-3663. Or if you have a cell phone, it's really easy. Just dial pound 250 and say the word food when prompted. And again, operators are standing by. So many people have donated, and it's been wonderful. Robert in Buffalo Grove gave a $100 gift. Christopher in West Chicago. So the people in Haiti are really in need because Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And with that, we welcome Paul Vallas to the program because Paul Vallas has been to Haiti close to, I think, 43 times. Well, let's ask him. Here's Paul Vallas. Good morning, Paul. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? How's my
Good.
reception?
It sounds perfect. So how many times have you been to Haiti, and just describe what the poverty is like?
Oh, probably probably pretty close to 40 times. I was invited there after my work in New Orleans. I did work in New Orleans after Katrina, rebuilding the school system down there, and I was invited by the Inter-American Developmental Bank, which is like the Western Bank for the World Bank for the Western Hemisphere. So it was part of an effort to develop a strategy to build a functioning school system while at the same time enhancing relief efforts. So it's been quite a few times.
So what did you see, and just describe what it's like for those of us who've never been there?
Well, as you describe it, it's the most underdeveloped country in the Western Hemisphere, and it's underdeveloped for a variety of reasons. And just a quick history, and this is why Haiti is different, because a lot of people will say, well, why are you going to Haiti, or why are you spending so much time in Haiti? The Haitians need to take care of themselves. Haiti probably was under the most brutal colonial system in modern history. The model for colonial occupation was a slave economy, and the model was to work the slaves to death. In fact, there's an excellent book on the subject called Paradise Lost. And then after Haiti, and Haiti had the only successful slave revolution in world history. And after their successful revolution, the international community literally forced them to pay for the cost of the slaves. It was a French colony, and Haiti spent 120 years spending about 80% of their disposable income on paying off the debt. In other words, the value of having been the actual value, the actual cost of the slaves. And so the country, unlike the Dominican Republic and other countries in the Western Hemisphere, failed to develop. It failed to, when 80% of your income is going to pay off a debt. I guess the privilege of having been slaves, if I could be sarcastic, not much infrastructure is happening. So the country today, there's been radical deforestation. It has fundamentally a non-functioning economy. 95% of the economy is on the street. It has very little infrastructure. And what happens is when there are natural disasters, particularly when there are hurricanes, there's no sewage system, for example. So the water, which is unsafe to begin with, becomes even more contaminated. And of course, the country itself, whereas 50, 60, 70 years ago was an agricultural exporting country, the country is heavily dependent on foreign imports. Yet it has very little disposable income, so to speak, to basically purchase the basic necessities. So clearly, it's a country that has been severely distressed for reasons in many ways beyond its control. So, thus, the challenge in trying to help that country. So, any help that we can provide is the absolute right thing to do. And I've continued to be involved in Haiti through an organization called JPHRO, which for a period of about 5 years actually provided support for about 60,000 displaced Haitians who were displaced by the hurricane, who have now since been returned to their communities through the rebuilding of homes, and obviously homes that hopefully will be able to withstand the next catastrophe.
Is there a death toll of people that perished from Hurricane Matthew?
Well, I'm not sure what the exact number is, because in Haiti you always get you never really get accurate numbers. For example, I recall during the earthquake, the estimate of the death toll was anywhere between 150,000 and 225,000 people. And let me point out that literally the vast majority of those people died within like 10 minutes, because when the earthquake hit, the buildings collapsed. It was actually towards the end of the work day. So you had people at work, you had people in governmental buildings, and you had people who were in shelter, so to speak. So when and the hardest area of the country that was hit, obviously, was Port-au-Prince. So it's a country that has really suffered and continues to suffer, and it's a country that is, I believe, deserving of the people of Haiti are deserving of American support in any way we can provide it.
So what is the prognosis for Haiti, and is there the fear that it will become eternally dependent on the largesse of groups like you're involved with, as well as other countries?
The interesting thing with JPHRO is it was an NGO that was actually started by Sean Penn, and the politics aside, he has done extraordinary work down there, raising money for Haiti, spending about, for a long time, 60-70% of his time in Haiti. I'm on the board. It's a not-for-profit, and I chair the finance committee. And but what he did with with JPHRO was he actually created a NGO that eventually became 99% Haitian. So it's an autonomous, freestanding NGO that is run by Haitians, and it's done extraordinary work. As I mentioned, literally caring for 60,000 people while their community was being rebuilt. It's really a remarkable story that I think everybody can agree to. But the prognosis is, I think the international community has got to provide support for Haiti in a coordinated way. I've been highly critical of the response of the international community. Reason number one is they did not provide the resources, the support that they had promised. Reason number two is the international community has a tendency to be like they take a very balkanized approach. 95% of the money that goes to the international community that went to Haiti went to non-governmental organizations, not necessarily directly to the country itself. Of course, they then dispense the money, but they have a tendency to promote their own programs or to protect their own programs rather than to provide support in a coordinated way.
Yeah,
so,
and the UN recently apologized because thousands have died from cholera, and they came forward 2 weeks ago and said that, sorry, we didn't do enough.
I think you do all you can. It's, I've been critical of the lack of coordination, the lack of, the tendency to basically have these organizations do their own thing rather than to provide support for the Haitians in a coordinated way. And it's not like the Haitians are not industrious. The Haitians diaspora, the Haitian immigrants in the United States and across the world are some of the most. They're the most successful immigrants of African descent, and they themselves remit close to $1.5 billion to the island a year just to support the family.
That would seem to indicate that they need, the kind of governmental system that maybe we have and have been suffering under, a bad kind of government.
Well,
if the people themselves are industrious and flourish in the United States,
right? But they keep having these natural disasters once they start.
Well,
they have that,
but
there's also the system.
Well, there's no doubt. There is absolutely no doubt with an economy that is largely underground, and the lack of a mature democratic system certainly works to their advantage. The governmental institutions are weak. They've been in political turmoil really since the earthquake, or since shortly after the earthquake. So clearly there are problems. First of all, I think we have an obligation. We have an obligation as people of faith to help those in need. And the Haitian people are individuals who there is a great need, and these are hardworking people. These are industrious people. You see it by the Haitians who have come here and who have flourished. We have so many prominent Haitians in the Chicago area, like Kwame Raoul and others, who have really done extraordinary work, and their families have done extraordinary things. So I think we have an obligation. We have an obligation to help them. But I think the international community also has got to get its act together, and when it goes in and it helps a country and it helps to build a country, not rebuild, because there was nothing built for all practical purposes in the first place. They really have to do it in a coordinated manner. They've got to make sure that the money really reaches those in need, and they've got to stop kind of protecting their own programs. And I'm not suggesting the programs are not well intentioned, but that absence of coordination in the response sometimes undermines the relief efforts, and I've saw that firsthand. It's very frustrated at the inability, that the tendency to develop really good plans and then the inability to implement those plans through the lack of coordination.
Well, thank you so much, Paul Vallas, for joining us. Former CEO of Chicago Public Schools, former lieutenant gubernatorial candidate. Are you running for anything in the near future? Mayor of Chicago? Governor again? Are you going to?
No.
I love this one, that you might run as a Republican for Cook County Board President.
Oh, God. That invitation came a number of years ago.
Yeah, Mr. Vallas, question right here. I mean, should we encourage more charter schools in Chicago, and are we in the grips of the Chicago Teachers Union?
Time.
Yes.
Listen, I'll be more than happy to come on and deal with that controversy with you anytime.
Because it's not Haiti, but it's bad.
Yes, thanks so much, Paul Vallas, for joining us on our Turnkey.Pro answer line. We also